The tilt is real.
Tilt is real.
This is when the tilt is real.
Welcome to another episode of The Tilt is Real Fantasy Podcast. Coming to you live from the chef's table, here are your hosts, James Crease and Juan Pena.
Let's go. Welcome in, all you tilters. It is Monday, November 30th, the last day of November, and boy, do we have a jam-packed show for you today. It was just going to be set off that we were going to recap some Sunday football games, but it's not the case. We have a lot of news coming through the lines, and we're going to have to share it with you. Joined with me, as always, Mr. Juan Carlos Pena. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, Chef. We're talking about fantasy football. Despite all the bad news, it's still a great day.
And always, as always, repping his Eagles gear today, Mr. John Swanson. What's up there, pal?
What's going on, boys? Looking forward to the night, I think.
You think?
Looking forward to the night and reeling from yesterday.
You're still ready, though. You're game day ready, baby. I like it. I like the energy. Go get them.
Always. Listen, I have. We'll talk about it once we get into it. And I always have. You know, I said what I said about what I think is going on, what I think might happen tonight, because, you know, realist in a sense, but I'm still, still all birds all day.
Well, man, either way, you're all birds. If the Seahawks defense prognostication that you gave is right, then you're still all birds. So either way, it works out for you.
Birds of a feather or something like that.
Shout out to Justin in the chat, jumping in with us real fast at the top of the show. What's going on, Justin? Thanks for joining in. We've got a jam-packed one in for you today, bud. And it starts off like this.
This just in. We have breaking news.
Will Fuller has been suspended 6 games for PEDs. That means the rest of the 2020 season is no longer permitted for him. And also, since he's on the last year of his contract, that leaks into whatever team he gets signed with, or if he stays on, he will miss 1 game of the regular season in 2021. Now, I'm going to flip this to Juan, because Juan owns a lot of stock in Will Fuller, and he was riding him to his playoffs and his fantasy championship this year. So, Juan, why don't you give us some insight on what's going on with Will Fuller?
Yeah, anytime there's a PED suspension, usually it's 4 games, Chef. So I'm surprised it's a little bit longer or what's going to happen here. Because if it's a 4-game suspension, you would still see him back at the end of the season. It wouldn't be fantasy relevant. For the fantasy relevancy, he's dead. Like, it's over for him as far as this year for redraft leagues. Forget about it. Thank him for... Listen, he stayed on the field longer than he normally does. He put up monster games, including this week on Thanksgiving, where he carried you probably to a victory this week. If you had Will Fuller, unless you got Tyreek killed last night or yesterday, you're off to a pretty good start if you're the Will Fuller owner. Interesting is what's going to happen with the rest of the receiving core. Who's going to get to step up? We're going to get a real look at Kiki QT. Like you said, Chef, Will Fuller's a free agent. They already cut Kenny Bills. So they're going to be looking for a replacement of some sort, and they're obviously going to address this in the draft in the second round. But for now, I want to see if it's going to be Kiki QT or if it's an uptick for Brandon Cooks, and does he become a wide receiver 1 like we saw Will Fuller, who up until right now is a number 1 wide receiver or wide receiver 1 in fantasy.
Yeah, we haven't really seen Brandon Cooks ever step into that number 1 receiving role. And I'm interested to see now that defenses are going to be aware of it, and they don't have Will Fuller to stretch the field or run those crossing routes. It's going to be a really, really scary thing. And like you mentioned, they released Kenny Stills at the beginning of this week before week 12. They parted on equal terms and no bad will, but maybe they sign him right back. Who knows? I would if I were the Texans. I mean, he knows the system.
Makes perfect sense, Chef. Exactly. He knows the system. That would be ideal if they could just get him right back in there. Or maybe they can.
All right. I didn't mean to break up with you. I was drunk. I just need you to come back.
I didn't mean it, boo. I didn't mean it.
I still love you. I need you.
Indeed.
And for the next part of our news, speaking of bad will, 2020 has been spoken on this show. All right. And I am a culprit of that. And due to that, The Ravens-Steeler game has been moved to Wednesday this week. It is the first time since 2012 that a game is going to be played on Wednesday. And man, I'm surprised that they're even going to play it at all at this point. But the NFL wants it. What do you guys think?
I think you said it right there. The NFL wants it, man. They're pushing to make this game happen.
They need it, Chef. I feel like it's an opportunity for them to do the right thing. As far as if you're the Steelers and you're 10-0, you can't just. First of all, the forfeit thing would be too ugly. We've never seen it in the NFL where a team just forfeits a game because of rosters or what have you. That would be ugly. And then taking away their bye. In essence, there's only one bye in each conference now, so it's even more valuable to have that number one record. And if they fight their way through, let's say, an undefeated season, and then they don't get the bye and they have to play a play-in game against a Tennessee, Indianapolis, a team that can get you on any given Sunday.
Yeah,
like that, it just doesn't seem fair. So in the interest of fairness, I think the right thing to do would be to get this game played by any means necessary.
I mean, in all actuality, I think it would be Baltimore forfeiting if they couldn't man a team on the field, and by default, the Steelers would get the win on their record regardless.
That's the only way that's close to fair, but it just seems ugly because it's never happened in the NFL. But if they don't do that and they make them play that game in week 18, then that I feel like that penalizes the Steelers, and they should remove that from the equation. Like they shouldn't even entertain that idea.
Yeah, I agree.
Me too.
They're trying to do everything they can not to have that circumstance. Oh, man. And because of that game, we got a couple of things going on for next week. Just a little preview. There will be a triple header Monday Night Football. We heard that the Washington football team will be playing the Steelers, and the Cowboys and Ravens game also moved to Monday to go along with the Buffalo San Francisco game. So, wow, we have a jam-packed Monday next week, just peeking a little bit ahead into that future. So that's something to look forward to, I guess.
We'll definitely be doing this show. We'll just be doing an earlier version. We're going to have to do some kind of early afternoon tea time special, London tea time, show real quick next week.
I mean, we're pretty much used to that. When normally every year there's a game played in London, we always get up early. We do the kegs and eggs. We do the
we used to do the kegs and eggs. I wouldn't mind doing a Monday show if that's what needs to get done.
I do the Irish coffees, but you know what I mean. I like
the Mexican coffees.
Up early though. I do miss those London games, and I hope they get all this stuff situated in 2021. Brings us back to those early 9 a.m. games. I love that day of full football, 15 hours of football. Let's go.
Yes, sir. Love that.
All right. I think that's enough for the news. Let's start getting into some of these games. I don't want to spend too much time on them because we do have one game that in particular that I know Mr. Swanson wants to talk about.
Absolutely. Let's get into the Sunday games. We'll talk about Monday. We'll talk about Sunday towards the end.
We'll get there, right, Mr. Swanson? We'll get there.
We'll get there.
So the first game we're going to talk about is the Raiders at Falcons. It's not exactly what we were expecting.
Oh, really? Was it not what we were expecting? Was it not what we were expecting? Good.
I'm going to raise my hand. I'll raise my hand here and note that my Derek Carr and Nelson Aguilar takes were I mean, they were well warranted for what we saw in the past week, but it seems to be the trend. It seems to be the trend that Derek Carr and the Raiders play to their competition.
Yeah. My take on Darren Waller was terrible too.
Hey,
my corn.
Your corn, right? My Jacobs, I was so thankful. My dark meat turkey, right? My thighs on Turkey Day. Like that was my whole player that I've been thankful for. Chef, that was the first time he hasn't seen double-digit carries in his entire career. He had 7 carries.
He got injured in this one with an ankle sprain, and we're learning today that he should be okay for next week. But it was just terrible for the Raiders side of the ball. And on the Falcons side of the ball, we had Todd Gurley out. We had Julio Jones out in this one with a hamstring issue. And we saw Ito Smith really take charge of the offense, 12 for 65 and a touchdown. He finished the day with 17.5 fantasy points. He was the real running back in that offense, and everybody ran to the waiver wire, picked up Brian Hill. I did mention yesterday.
Guilty. You mentioned Ito Smith.
I mentioned yesterday. Ito Smith could be involved in this one. along with Quadri, which was nothing. But Ito Smith got it done. And along with him, obviously, Calvin Ridley just smashed.
Yeah, it was nice to
Indeed.
see. When
Indeed.
we talked about on Sunday, you're always kind of weary about Matt Ryan without Julio Jones. So it was, nice to see that Calvin Ridley thing. But what happened to the Raiders, man? I mean, what happened?
Man,
How many parlays?
They got stunned, and once it was 16-3 and Matt Ryan threw the pick six to Deion Jones,
Yeah.
like that was the backbreaker, and at that point they just abandoned the run. Jacobs was banged up. They couldn't get the same efficiency with the running game. They started throwing the ball, and then Carr fumbling the ball. He doubled his total for the season. He had 1 fumble so far this year, and he had 2 yesterday. These are those any given Sunday 2020 kind of games. I'm going to throw this one out the window and not even put too much, hurt on the Raiders. And you were right, Chef, to think Aguilar was going to have a good game. Mr. Swanson, you were not wrong to think that Waller was going to have a good game. The numbers usually don't lie, but in this case, they definitely got us.
I mean, Aguilar had a decent game, 5 for 54 on 6 targets. But when like you said, Derek Carr, four total turnovers, 1 interception, 3 fumbles. When they bring in Nathan Peterman,
right, yeah.
When they bring in Nathan Peterman to be quarterback over Derek Carr, there's something going on there. And the Atlanta Falcons defense, their front 4, man, showed up and they were putting the pressure on hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy because I can't name you one of those front 4, and you know how I feel about defense, right? So I'm lying. Wow. I can name you a couple of them, but I don't know. Like they gave up Tack McKinley, so he was their main pass rusher. They also let Vic Beasley go last year, so that Atlanta was up 28-3 in the Super Bowl not too long ago. You know what I mean? Like calendar-wise, like that was less than 2 years ago. They're up 28-3, and that team's on top of the world. And this is a new thing. So we were not expecting the Atlanta Falcons to do this, but I guess it's in their part of their system still, their DNA, to actually show up and play some games. And I think they're going to be playing spoiler the rest of the way too.
Well, they shouldn't be playing spoiler next week in a divisional matchup against the Saints. And like you said, the Raiders getting back on track going up against the Jets next week. It should be smoother sailing for them, to say the least.
Yeah.
Get right. Don't be shocked if Atlanta goes ahead and upsets the Saints, though. Like, we got to start taking them a little bit more seriously, I think.
Indeed. Let's move on one more game, and then we'll get to some questions, and then we'll jump right back into the games. And the one that I want to talk about, the Chargers at the Buffalo Bills. The Bills win this 27-17. And I'd really like to spend time on the Bills side of the ball, but I won't. I'm going to talk about my guy, awesome Austin Eckler. Oh my gosh, 129 all-purpose yards. He tied his record for 16 targets. He caught 11 balls. Finished the day with 23.9 fantasy points. I told you guys he was coming back, and he smashed it home with this one if you have him on your roster. So no snap count for Austin Eckler. He held his own.
Yeah, he sure did. He really got it done through the air, man. He really did. That was super encouraging to see him get all those fantasy points through the air.
Yeah, I'm glad that yesterday that he was the hot topic, Chef. He was the one guy that everybody was asking about. All of our listeners, Mob GG, like everybody was in here and they were worried about his snap count and whether or not he was going to play and or how much he was going to play. And he showed, like you said, Chef, he was going to be there the whole time and he was going to play. Oh, where he's talking about your boy, Koo.
Mob GG. That boy Koo, man. Let's go.
Yo, Chef, like a lot. We've never really
covered Koo, man. We don't really cover kickers. He's my favorite, though.
Right. He's your favorite. I have Jason Sanders, the Dolphins kicker, in a lot of leagues, and he's been top 5 almost every week. Like, these are kickers that are carrying you if you're still playing in leagues with kickers. And no, I'm not going to shun any leagues that haven't punted on the kicker yet. If you're still playing in those leagues, kudos to you. And if you have Koo on your team, you're really, really happy with his performance yesterday.
Was that a play on words? Kudos?
Kudos to you.
Speaking of kickers real fast, if you guys haven't heard yet, Rodrigo Blankenship, he was diagnosed with cancer today.
Oh,
real sob story.
I did not hear that.
That is awful.
Yes, he did. So that's I'm not going to put breaking news out there for that, but
no.
Our hearts go out to Rodrigo Blankenship, and I hope he can kick his way through this one as well, like he's been kicking it through this year. So yeah,
a shame. Rookie kicker. That's good. He's been really good this year for the Colts. That's a shame.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I'm not going to spend too much time on this Chargers game. We're going to move right along. Keenan Allen was the other bright spot for the for the Chargers, but the Bills get this one done, man. And the guy that we talked about, Singletary, losing a step. It was really a split. It really was. Singletary had 13 carries. Zach Moss had 12 carries. It's just a matter of who got the yardage on it. And Singletary finishing the day with 82 yards, 3 receptions for 20 yards. Not much to write home about. 10.2 fantasy points.
Yeah, he just had it happen to hit, Chef. And you see that with these committees. The guy that breaks off the 20-yarder or a couple 10-yard runs or 8-yard runs in a series, it feels like that guy had the most successful day. But in all actuality, they're still in a shared committee and they're still in a murky situation that you kind of want to avoid altogether.
Yep.
Chargers will have to pick up some steam going into next week. They play the Patriots and the Bills Monday Night Football showdown against the 49ers, who their defense is stepping up to the plate.
Looking good. Looking like the old 49ers D. They're starting to get it together, Chef. They're going to be dangerous if they can sneak into that 7th spot somehow.
Yeah, let's get into some of these questions real fast so we don't fall behind on them. Help our guys out that are our fans here.
Our
Justin
fellow
wants to know,
tilters.
our fellow tilters. That's a good way to put it as well.
Yeah.
Justin wants to know, how long is Daniel Jones out for?
Chef?
Yeah, I got it. Right now, the MRI was negative. He is day to day. They're going to test him out this week during practice, and he has a chance to play on Sunday against the Seahawks. I don't think he will. The people have been talking around the industry don't believe so either. I think it's at least 1 week with Colt McCoy at the helm, which we all saw was scary. But yeah, Daniel Jones, hamstring issue, but not as major as we all thought in the beginning, which is great. Varun says, hello, everyone. What's going on, man?
What's up, man?
Welcome back, fam.
Welcome back.
And he's got a question. He has Ebron and Miles Sanders in his lineup. Currently, my score is 131. Opponent has just Eagles D with a score of 134. It's PPR. Options available at tight end are Disley, Hollister, Rodgers. Must win for the playoffs.
Congratulations.
I like this.
Congratulations on your win.
Well, he hasn't won yet.
He hasn't won yet. He's going to have to stick one of these tight ends.
I'm aware.
And he's nervous about Ebron. So
you're saying because he has the Eagles D and he's going to get negative points from the Eagles D on the other side? Is that what it is?
Well, the opponent has the Eagles D.
That's what I'm saying. Mr. Swanson's saying congratulations. He's assuming that the Eagles D is going to have negative points and he's going to win. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if it's negative points, but I don't think it's going to be anything to really write home about. I really don't. I'll back this up. I'll back all of this up right now. I was going to wait until we do the Monday night matchup. But what's going on with my computer?
Yeah, you're dropping out a little bit. I'll come in and help you out a little bit for this. If you really want to back up Ebron and get some points tonight, out of these options that you just listed, I would go with not Disley. I would go with Hollister. I would go with Hollister in this one. Let's see here. I had it before.
Eagles are 27th against tight ends.
That's the start of it. And then the other part is that Hollister has been getting the targets over Will Disley. Will Disley's mainly been in there for blocking purposes. It's a rain game, so I don't expect either of these options to really get a lot of targets. But I don't know, man.
Chef, those stats are skewed, though, because, first of all, they brought Disley back slowly from the big injury from last year, and then Greg Olsen's been in there as well. So unless like if Hollister's out snapping Disley like throughout the whole season, playing alongside Greg Olsen, then he might keep his role and Disley might step into the Olsen role. Or are you calling for, Hollister to be able to step into the Olsen role?
I think Hollister may step into the Olsen role a little bit more. He did have one game where he had 7 targets, 5 for 60 against Buffalo, and Disley, he was strung along slowly, but he hasn't had more than 4 targets this whole season in a game.
Well, keep in mind, Chris Carson's back. Chris Carson's back.
Maybe more 12 personnel, rain game, run the ball. Either one of those tight ends. It's not going to rain.
Nope. Right.
Yeah, the rain blew through this afternoon.
they're still going to run the ball, and they're still going to try to, establish that play action. And if you have both of these tight ends, it's kind of tough to pick from. But I choose them over Richard Rodgers, though. Even if Rodgers finds the end zone on a fluke, I'd rather trust one of the two Seattle tight ends. It's just going to be tough to pinpoint which one.
I mean, if that's the case, maybe just hold on to Ebron and just. I mean, you take a 0 worst case, but who were his other options? I'll bring it up real fast again. He's got Miles Sanders too.
That's what I'm saying. He's got
Sanders.
No.
Sanders tonight. Yeah.
And he's only down by 3. So I think
you're good.
I
think
congratulations.
Should be okay.
You're right. Yeah, you win.
You're gonna be all right, man.
Yeah,
you
just
roll mess around. Roll with Ebron.
Don't get too cute. I know you're trying to scrape it in. They make it into the playoffs, man. But I would trust Ebron and that matchup. He's got Ebron and Miles Sanders. So I think Miles Sanders gets a little bit done here on the ground tonight. And we're going to get into that matchup in a little bit.
I agree. I think Sanders will get it done.
Carlos, what's up, Carlos?
What's up, Los?
What's up, fellas? What's going on with Aaron Jones losing touches to Jamal Williams?
Game script.
Yeah, I was going to say just the same. They kind of seem like they have this system, Chef, where related to basketball terms real quick. So Michael Jordan, for example, would play the first 9-10 minutes of a game, and then he would sit, and he would sit down, and Pippen would stay on the court for a little while. They would take one out and put the other one in. So one of them was always on the field. So these two guys are consistently on the field. I feel like they do it in spurts. You take a drive, I take a drive. And if it just so happens that on that drive you find success and the offense is clicking and it happens to be Jamal Williams' turn, then you'll see him have success. But Aaron Jones still had 17 carries for 90 yards. So it's not like the opportunities weren't there. He was able to still establish himself. He just eats into it a little more than you would like for an RB1 or a guy that you consider to be an RB1. But it kind of gives a little bit of value to Jamal Williams, and he becomes a flex consideration each week. And we've seen other backfields sustain 2 running backs, so it doesn't scare me off too much as far as the split in those carries. I think the ship will right itself, and it'll end up averaging out where Aaron Jones is the leader in that backfield.
Same thing's kind of happening right now in New Orleans as well. After last game, you see what happened with Latavius Murray versus Alvin Kamara. I don't know if any of that has to do with Taysom Hill being under center and the rushing ability of Taysom Hill taking away from Alvin Kamara. We saw it 1 week, and then we kind of saw it for a second week, and then you see Murray kind of getting an uptick too. So I guess we'll get to that as well. But yeah, I just like you said, I don't feel like I wouldn't be worried about Aaron Jones.
Yeah, no, both of them got 17 carries on the day. So yeah, I think it's just an uptick for Jamal Williams. You have to trust him as a low end flex depending on the matchup, like Mr. Swanson said. And that's going to happen week to week, man. They're not always going to smash every week. It's just the way it goes, unfortunately. And that's how it goes for the Giants versus the Bengals. The Giants won this matchup 19-17. Closer than what I wanted it to be. Okay. I wanted a smash home run. We're going to take first place this week, which we did.
Which you did. Well,
but it took losing Daniel Jones to a hamstring injury to do so. And then we see Colt McCoy come in looking very, very pedestrian. I'm not even going to talk about his stats. But the one guy I will talk about is Wayne Gallman. 24 carries for 94 yards and a touchdown. Also had 3 receptions on the day. He got you 18.1 fantasy points. And we told you guys to play Gallman this week.
All day. He was one of our tilting points, one of our last minute, like this guy or that guy. We picked him over Moser. We picked him over a lot of players yesterday that everybody was tilting on. And Gallman was effective.
Another guy that we were hoping would have a great game. And
finally.
Juan, we've been waiting for it all season. My guy, Mr. Evan Ingram.
There he is.
Finally shows up. Oh my goodness. 6 for 129 yards on 9 targets.
Deep targets too, Chef. He was being targeted down the field by Danny Dimes. He was stretching the field. He could have had a touchdown on that first one, the 53-yarder. Yeah. So he compiled one of those days. Like I said, he could have one of these games at some point. And one of these games, he'll pair that 100 yards with a couple of touchdowns, and he'll climb up those ranks and end up where he's supposed to be a top 5 wide receiver because he's a top tight end. He's a top 5 talent at the position without a question. Like, you can't argue that. If we argue top 3, then you get into semantics. But top 5, lock it in. That's what he should be. And yesterday we saw a glimpse of that. Finally, like you said.
Yeah, finally. And if we look at his scores, They're a little spotty, but he seems to be getting consistent targets on a weekly basis since week 7, 9, 10, 10, 3 versus Philadelphia, but then again, 9 again on Sunday against Cincinnati. We can look for him to grow. I wouldn't trust him with Colt McCoy in there because we don't know what that's going to bring to the offense, and fantasy relevance is a little scary. But
Chef,
one guy, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Chef. No, this week we'll get a good glimpse into that tonight and how Seattle treats Goddard and how that relationship works. Like if they are able to shut down Goddard, that'll be a huge factor in determining whether or not I trust Ingram next week going up against Seattle with Colt McCoy in there.
That's a great point.
Is a great point.
We get to see it tonight, so I'm looking forward to that.
One bright spot that I want to hit on for the Bengals is T. Higgins, 5 for 5 for 44 yards and a touchdown. Is he quarterback proof? Is he is the real deal, isn't he?
I'd say he's, yeah. I mean, I love what I see from the guy. And he did it yesterday without Joe Burrow. So
yeah, as Brandon Allen as the quarterback, he still holds his own, leads Cincy in receiving, catches all of his targets, and now he has Miami, Dallas on the next 2 games on the schedule. So that's something to look forward to.
I like him, Chef, and you just have to be careful where you have him. And like this week against Miami, I might avoid him. I might leave him alone against that Dolphins secondary, those corners. But then the following game against Dallas, he's a smash play regardless of who's under center, because he's one of those guys. Like last year, Devontae Parker didn't matter. Even this year, doesn't matter if Fitzpatrick's in there or Tua or if they're trying to run the ball. Like these are guys that have a safe floor because he's the number 1 on an NFL offense. So he should be, by logic, a top 32 wide receiver.
Yeah.
It just goes along with the 2020 theme this year of everything that was supposed to happen is opposite. And that brings us to our next matchup, the Titans at the Colts. And the Titans, now they lost to the Colts the first time they played, right? Mm-hmm. And they just come out of the gate and roll over the Colts 45-26. Mm-hmm. And who wants to talk about the king? Anybody?
27 carries, 178 yards, 3 touchdowns. What? My man. My man. Unbelievable. What a bowling ball. How do you stop that guy?
Heavy is the crown, and he's wearing it well this season, man.
Sure is.
Oh, my goodness. You can't stop him. You really can't. And if you have him on your fantasy football team, you're probably going to the playoffs.
And you should be able to ride right through the playoffs.
I got some breaking news. You don't have to play the drop, but
what do you got?
Cowboys Ravens. Well, okay, because it's like a might be. Cowboys Ravens might be now being moved to Tuesday night.
Oh my gosh!
It just
all right. Well, oh man,
Stay tuned
to
and
the tilt is real.
More breaking news: J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram will now be eligible for Wednesday's game against the Steelers. Whoa.
Wow.
What is going on?
Whoa.
They must have tested positive.
This just it.
That's crazy. That's
breaking news.
Bananas.
But Baltimore's still going to be down a dozen players, even with them.
Oh, my God.
Wow, this is bananas.
B-E. Oh, no, that's be aggressive. B-A bananas.
B-E bananas.
Yo, Chef,
oh, man. That's
speaking
amazing.
of bananas, like we're doing a disservice by the Derrick Henry thing. Like it's not just I have to own this one because I had to take that after the Cincinnati game in week 8, I had to take that Derrick Henry was about to go through a gauntlet, and without Taylor Lewan, like he was going to struggle and that he wasn't going to be able to sustain the same type of performance. All he's done ever since then is 112 and a touchdown, 68 against Chicago, which was expected, 103, 133 with a touchdown, and then 178 and 3. So he went through that gauntlet, matchup proof. Now he faces Cleveland, who just got torched by James Robinson. He gets Jacksonville, who just got torched by Nick Chubb. He got Detroit, who can't really stop anybody on the ground. And then Green Bay, who we've seen people be almost record-setting. Look out if Derrick Henry doesn't push for 1,800, 2,000 yards, that kind of territory when it's all said and done. And then he gets Houston in week 17 to really compile his stats. So
yeah, he's got the fantasy the fantasy matchup gift from the gods.
13 through
Really?
17 for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rest of the way.
Yeah, good for you if you have him. Oh,
Yeah.
A nice
God.
surprise from AJ Brown
sure.
in this one as well. 4 for 6, 98 yards and a touchdown. He also had a 42-yard kick return for a touchdown, which he normally doesn't do, but hey, he got it done.
No, Chef, he was on the hands team. They kicked an onside kick, and instead of just jumping on the ball, he took off like and he was gone. Like he
turned the jets on.
Listen, he ran through, caught the ball, and he was straight down the sideline, and everybody was running this way, and he was the only one going that way. It was the easiest touchdown I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was just ran right in.
Yeah.
So that's what he was doing on the kick return team. So, but those are points, too. They count for fantasy.
Did a nice job there. Finally, T.Y. Hilton showed up a little bit, too.
Yeah.
That was nice to see.
I mean, yeah.
And I apologize for all my Michael Pittman love this week. I just can't call it all the time, man. It's a shame. His stats, his game log looks like Morse code sometimes, and I guess this was the off week.
I'm sorry for the Nyheim Hines love. You know,
we're not always right. We're not always right, but we did okay. And Nyheim Hines did all right.
I was going to say, listen, it's about the opportunity. Like, we can say a guy did all right if he went 4 for 40 but fell in the end zone. He got a touchdown, and then we suddenly say that player had a good game. Somebody goes 5 for 50 with a touchdown. You're like, oh, he had a good game because he got a touchdown. It's all touchdown dependent. When you get down to wide receiver RB3 and flexes, it's all about who gets the end zone, and the only thing you can count on is opportunity. So when you're right about the opportunity and you're right about the targets, if the outcome isn't right, I mean, it's not because the numbers lied to you. It's because it just didn't work out that way.
Titans play the Browns next week. Juan, you just shared that. And the Colts go up against the Texans. Most likely we'll have Jonathan Taylor back because he didn't test positive. He was just a close contact. So that's something to be looking forward to. Add another running back conundrum to the group for next week.
Yeah, even more confusing next week. Yep.
Yep.
And then the next game.
Yeah,
the next game it was confusing to me, man, because I thought that Dalvin Cook was just going to roll right through the Panthers, and it wasn't the case. The Vikings just squeaked by 28-27, and they should have lost this game if it wasn't for Joey Sly going wide left with 6 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, that was tough. That was a tough one to swallow.
Second time it's happened to them. The last time Joey Sly missed the kick, it was 64. So, okay, you can make an excuse for that one. But this field goal, he probably should have hit. And the reason this game flipped, Chef, was Jeremy Chin, the safety, the young boy. Like, I know we've talked about him earlier in the season and how he's going to be a difference maker. And they have playmakers now on all 3 levels, do the Carolina Panthers. So Chin at safety and Derek Brown, who they drafted as a defensive tackle, and Brian Burns, linebacker, who nobody's playing about, who can go sideline to sideline. They're making plays. And that kid scored 2 touchdowns yesterday, back-to-back plays. And that's the first time it's ever happened in the NFL. So, for somebody to do that, make 2 impact plays, it swings the game. Like, think about it. Within a span of two plays and a kickoff, you have 2 touchdowns going in the other direction. So that changed the way the game was played in its entirety. Because then all of a sudden, Minnesota's playing come from behind and they're throwing the ball all over the place. And Kirk Cousins becomes Kirk Cousins again. Like, he's back.
Oh, yeah. And he was on the waiver wire hero sheet for a reason. Right. And this was why. Another nice game, 307 yards, 3 touchdowns. And mainly because Dalvin Cook got banged up. He would later come back, but yeah, without Dalvin Cook on the field, Panthers were out for blood in this one. And we even saw BC Johnson get in on the action, 7 for 74, finished the day with 16.4 fantasy points. Talk about a sleeper, man. Wow.
Chad Beebe got in on the action. He had to spread the ball around to whoever was there. With no Adam Thielen, he had to spread the ball around, and he did a really good job of doing so.
And then finally, on the other side of the ball, Robbie Anderson finally gets another touchdown. First touchdown since week 1. Finished the day 4 for 94 and a touchdown. I'm happy about that. As a Robbie Anderson truther, I'm glad he saw the end zone. DJ Moore did get injured in this one, but I heard reports today that all tests were negative, and he should be good to go coming out of the bye week into week 14 for your fantasy playoffs.
Chef, I have a lot of stock in DJ Moore, so I'm hoping so. But I feel like stay tuned, stay with the Sunday tilt, stay with us on the Tilt is Real on Sundays, because even coming out of that bye, he may not play that week. I got a feeling that they might hold him out for just one more week after that. They've been cautious with CMC. He's a young player. He's 23, 24 years old. He's not the kind of guy you want to go out there and risk, especially if your season's lost already and your record is what we expect their record to be. They've had a couple of bad losses, and I think they're out of it pretty much.
Yeah, look for an uptick in Curtis Samuel's usage if he cannot go. That's for sure. And Robbie Anderson might be a smash play in the playoffs, in the first week of the playoffs, if DJ Moore's not out on the field.
Him and Samuel both, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Vikings should make up this game. Dalvin Cook, the news was that he is okay and should be playing next week against the Jaguars. Oh, man, I hope so, man. That's a...
Yeah, after what Chubb did, yep.
That's a big one I'd like to sink my teeth into. But let's go on to some weird news here. And this game I thought was going, and it's another 2020 matchup. The Patriots beat the Cardinals 20-17. And we saw Murray not himself in this one at all.
Yeah,
it was just bonkers, man. It really was.
I think the shoulder might have been bothering him, Chef. I didn't see him make too many great throws. Everything he threw was underneath. You couldn't stop Hopkins for a little while there, and they were clicking. But then once they got in the red zone, he couldn't force throws in deep down the seams, or he missed Dan Arnold, your boy, a couple times. He could have had a great fantasy day because he missed him a couple times in the end zone. It just wasn't the same Kyler, and I got a feeling something's worse with that shoulder than he's letting on.
And I mean, because of that, they lean on Drake. He gets it done on the ground. 22 carries for 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. Man, if you played Drake, you were rewarded with 24.3 fantasy points. But for football's sake, I don't know how the Patriots squeaked this one out. Cam looked bad with 2 interceptions on the day. The only bright spot was James White and Jacoby Myers, if you want to call it a bright spot, 5 for 52.
Yeah, it's a nice flex bright spot.
It is a flex bright spot, and we talked about him a lot yesterday. And then, with Cam, Chef, he didn't have 100 yards passing going into the fourth quarter. Like, it was absolutely awful the way they were, performing. He threw an interception to Drake Kirkpatrick, and we saw him get torched by Tyler Lockett a few weeks ago for 200 yards. So it was a rough game.
It doesn't get any better for the Cardinals next week going up against the Rams and the Patriots. I'm interested to see how this one's going to turn out. The Patriots play the Chargers. So that's one to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. I want to see Herbert up against Cam.
And the next matchup is great because it was my buttermilk biscuits take. The Dolphins win as expected, 20-3. A little Thanksgiving humor there. Devontae Parker, Mr. Buttermilk Biscuits, soaked up everything on the leftover plate. 8 for 14 for 119 yards. He finished with 18.9 fantasy points for the day. He was the lead receiver in that option. We called it at the top of the show yesterday with Fitzpatrick in. Devontae Parker just soaks it all up, man.
Absolutely. And Gesicki did too. I think you started mentioning him and my computer fizzled out again. But yeah, 2 for 35 and a touchdown. That's a great tight end day. And we did mention that on the show yesterday. So hopefully,
whichever one scores, that's the one that's going to be good. We had it work out where he scored, and Hooper scored, and Eifert scored, and Trey Burton scored.
Ingram had a great day.
Ingram had a day. So like
we hit our tight ends.
we did hit on all of those yesterday. And Chef, it's funny that you're talking about the plate. Now that I'm thinking about it, there was nothing good on my Thanksgiving plate. I mean, Josh Jacobs had the worst game he's ever had in his career. That was my dark meat turkey. That's gone. Small thighs. Yeah, that thigh was small. And then my mac and cheese, CEH, also we'll get to him in a little bit, but also, nothing to write home about. Bad day as well. So the only thing I got that was good was that Miami Dolphins defense just keeps on being that stuffing on your plate. So I guess if I leave Thanksgiving and I had at least stuffing and I still have sweet potato pie, maybe playing on Wednesday and Deontay Johnson, I'll be okay. But definitely not what I was looking for my Thanksgiving platter.
Yeah, you're right about that Dolphins defense. I mean, they go up against Darnold. Darnold coming back in, and man, he might as well just faceplant and let them walk all over him. Nothing really to write home about here. Perryman and Mims both had 4 receptions on 8 targets. Neither one passed 80 yards. But something to look forward to for Mims in the future. Not so much Perryman, but I think Mims is the future in that offense. They just have to get rid of Gase first.
He feels every bit of Higgins, every bit of Pittman, every bit of like a Devontae Parker plus, like that kind of a player. Like every week, start him because he's the one. Even if their team isn't very good, he's going to get to that point at some soon. Mims.
Well, the Dolphins have a great matchup against the Bengals next week, and the Jets playing the Raiders. Like we said, the Raiders should have a get right game. So that's something to think about before you start playing your Jets.
Yeah.
Start thinking about Gesicki, Chef.
Yeah.
He might make the waiver wire hero sheet. He should be somebody we might be targeting after the game Ingram had against the Bengals. We might be going Gesicki heavy this week.
Yeah,
Sure.
for all you that are listening, check out the waiver wire hero sheet. It will be coming out tomorrow at thetiltisreal.com. I'll also post it on our Facebook page and at TIR_pod. Always a great list, and a lot of them hit this week, Juan. A lot of them did, except for Derek Carr, of course.
No, a lot of them did, and I'm going to bring this up right now, right when you said that, because this is awesome. So Lucius Forensis, 44 from YouTube, thank you for tuning in. This is great update. Much help for the lineup advice this weekend. My opponent's team all had amazing
days.
Wait, my opponent's team all had amazing
days?
His
opponents had amazing days, so he must have been going up against those guys that we talked about. But go ahead.
Oh, I got it. All right, so without all of our advice, he wouldn't have even had a chance. So I guess
he's got Metcalf, Sanders, and Goddard going tonight. Yeah, so we're happy for that. He needs let's see. He needs 44 points because Kamara laid an egg. You guys did great for me, man. We appreciate it, Lucius.
Yo, if he's
Thank you so much.
If he's the one that upsets the Tyreek Hill, Derrick Henry, Mahomes owner from yesterday, like one of those guys that had 2 or 3 of those combined, and if he gets that off, like that, I'm going to feel very proud of ourselves, guys. Like that'll be very, very good for Lucius, and it'll be great for us. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for letting us know, man. That really that keeps the fire going for sure. Thank you.
We appreciate you, Lucius. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, man, please do it.
44, bro. Like that's doable for sure. Like with
those three going,
yeah. Miles Sanders, Goddard. Let's go 44 points.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Varenzis 44 needs 44 points. Let's go.
Oh, it's destiny,
oh wow,
bro.
that's destiny,
bro.
Let's go.
That was a good pickup. I didn't even realize that.
It's a match made in heaven, right there,
Swanson.
man. Yeah, you got a good shot, man. Thank you again. That's great. And Aurelio, did I get that right?
Yeah, Aurelio.
I'm getting better. Welcome back. Thank you for the Ingram love.
He's a little sour about Aaron Jones, but hey, that's how it goes sometimes, brother.
I am too.
We can only call it as much as we can see it, and we're predicting the future here.
Chef, 17 carries. If you call out a guy's gonna have opportunity, that's good.
Yeah, that's right. It's not like he had 5 carries and rode the bench for half the game.
Nah, he's 17 carries for 90 yards. I mean,
the chance he fell into the end zone, it would have been great. You're right.
Great fantasy day.
Speaking of falling into the end zone, Nick Chubb, 19 for 144 and a touchdown. Browns do a job on the Jaguars. I'm surprised they scored as much as they did. 27-25. It was the first game with Mike Glennon in the offense, and I thought it was just going to be a steamroller. And this is my fault. I was praising the Browns defense, I guess, a little bit too much because I got 0 points from them, and it did not feel good. But on the offensive side of the ball, Chubb did his thing. Hunt was a little disappointing. Only got you 6.2 fantasy points, and that was mainly because Chubb got the majority of the snaps.
Yep.
And Baker and Landry find their rhythm again. Shout out to Joe Martucci for the good weather insight on this one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Joe.
Always appreciate that, Joe. Thank you. Yeah, you finally, Chef. You were. I'm sorry, Chef, but you were finally you were finally able to see Baker Mayfield be efficient, and you were finally able to see the offense kind of taking off. But it was because of 210 combined rushing yards from your running backs. If you run the ball for 200 yards, play action is there. Everything's open. That game wasn't as close as the score indicates. It was the Jaguars making that last-minute effort. The Browns were going forward on 4th down, and they missed it by a chain link. Somehow Jerome Boger went like this and put his hands up like he was saying a field goal was good, but it was literally like the angle of the shot was he should have gone like this with his fingers and put his fingers really close to indicate how close that was. And if that happens, the game's over. They kill it. Jags don't get a chance to come back, put points on the board, kill your defense, which, by the way, was without Myles Garrett. Can't put enough emphasis on that defensive
and Denzel Ward.
And Denzel Ward.
Yep. And Greedy Williams. Like, yeah, if you have a bunch of injuries, and in the game, they lost Ronnie Harrison, their safety. So if you lose players left and right that way, it's hard to cover and it's hard to win the way you're supposed to win, even if you run for 210 yards.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, they had some nice pieces on the Jaguars, though. Colin Johnson, we said his name yesterday.
Yeah.
4 for 96 and a touchdown. Tyler Eifert is still alive. He's still playing football. He got into the end zone. And I called him as a streaming option too on tight end.
Yeah. You did mention him.
That's something that was available. And wow, I can't believe how close the game was. The Browns, like we talked about earlier, go up against the Titans, and the Jags are facing the Vikings next week. So that should be a showdown to be had. I think I like the Browns and Titans game. I think that's going to be very interesting because the Titans can give up points and the Browns can screw themselves, but somehow they're sitting at 8-3.
Those 4 games that you're mentioning, those 2 games and those 4 teams, the Browns. All right, so Nick Chubb against Derrick Henry, James Robinson against Dalvin Cook. Would you be shocked if it was 1 through 4 in whatever order next week for running back? I wouldn't be. Like all those, right?
No, not really.
Like I feel like all 4 of those should be the top candidates, the top guys that you want to go after next week as far as targeting guys on DFS or making sure you have them in your lineups. Like those 4 guys have chances to smash because all those defenses give up yards to the running back.
I mean, normally you would add Kamara to that list, but after watching the Saints win 31-3 with Latavius Murray being the only star, 19 for 124 and 2 touchdowns on the day, man, I don't know. I really don't. And that's a quick segue into our next matchup. The Saints got it done, and they got it done with Latavius Murray. No one else was really necessarily relevant, especially in fantasy for fantasy purposes in this one. And the Saints, they go up against the Falcons, and we just saw them stop Josh Jacobs in his tracks.
So that's why I feel like Mr. Swanson shouldn't be stressing about the Alvin Kamara situation.
I'm not. I mean, you're going up against a team that doesn't have a quarterback.
Correct. So there's no need to throw the ball. There's no need to involve.
That's what I was going to get to. Yeah. Why would you really have to involve your star running back when you really don't need to, and you know that Murray can get it done? I think that's, again, another week where I'm not really shaking in my boots about the whole Kamara situation just because of the way that, things were going. I feel bad for the Cowboys.
I feel bad for the Broncos.
I mean, the Cowboys, the Broncos. That's what I meant.
Oh, okay.
I feel bad for the Broncos. I don't feel bad for the Cowboys.
I mean, you lost 4 quarterbacks overnight.
Yikes. Come on, man.
Woof. But hey, shout out to the Hinton. That's his name, right? Hinton.
Mm-hmm.
He came in and tried to do his thing. He only threw the ball 12 times. He had 1 completion. 9.
One completion.
One completion
for
on
Noah
9
Fant.
attempts. To Noah Fant.
Yeah.
But we told everybody to take out all your Broncos, and at least we got that part right yesterday.
Well, we could definitely see that, Chef. Like you could see that coming. And you know what? Like I am a little bit tempered though. Like I don't feel bad about Kamara next week against the Falcons, but I am tempering my expectations when it comes to the receivers on the Saints side. Like outside of Michael Thomas, who's going to get his by some way or another, especially in a shootout, maybe game, interdivisional game in a nice, comfortable dome. Like he's going to get his, but I'm a little worried about Emmanuel Sanders. I'm worried about Traquan Smith and Jared Cook. Of course, I was already streaming off of him. So Michael Thomas is the only one, and then Alvin Kamara, but the rest of that team scares me off a little bit until they get Breeze back.
I agree. I definitely agree with you there. Broncos at the Chiefs next week. You can just tack on another win for the Chiefs.
Jesus. Oh my God.
That's gonna. I can't wait to break down that game though, Chef, because it's a Sunday night game, and I can't wait to figure out like what's gonna happen. Are any of those quarterbacks gonna be back?
Yeah, and they should be. As long as they don't test positive, which I don't believe they did. I think it was just contact tracing that kept them out of the game. I'm excited to see what the Broncos offense can do up against the Chiefs defense, who can give up points. We've seen it happen on weekly basis now. So that's going to be a sleeper matchup. There should be some sleeper plays in there for fantasy purposes.
Indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicole Hartman? Are you talking about the Broncos side?
No, he's talking about the Broncos side for sure.
Talking about the Broncos side.
That's a game where you might see Noah Fant come back and do what Gronk did yesterday to the Bucks. That's a game where you could see Jerry Jeudy do what Godwin did, to the Chiefs like that. That's or to the Chiefs earlier with Gronk too. But yeah, that's what you could see happen is those similar type of stat lines. So it's exciting if you're a Broncos fan or if you own players on the Broncos team or stocking players from the Broncos. It's a good game for you to do the right, especially if they get Drew Lock all the way back. not
As long
just
as they
any
get their
quarterback.
players back. As long as
Yeah.
they get their players back.
One of them, Chef. They just need Lock, really. Because how confident are you if it's not Lock?
Yeah, I'm not that confident if it's not Lock.
Right. It makes a big difference. So hopefully Lock is back.
And speaking of players getting back, the 49ers defense has gotten back a majority of their players, and they really, really came close to no, I'm sorry.
Oh,
They
won.
did it. They won
Yeah.
23-20. What am I doing here? They upset the Rams.
Indeed.
The Rams at home lost to the 49ers. I can't believe that. I can't believe it. Deebo Samuel, 11 for 123. He is definitely a weekly play in my book, Swan. I don't know if you're labeling him that way. If he keeps coming out like this, Nick Mullins looked comfortable throwing in the ball. He obviously got the main target share, and he should do so going forward. And I think Raheem Mostert in this system, it was only his first game back, activated off of IR this week. I think going forward, he will be able to keep pace and get more work done on the ground for them as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And that helps, Chef.
Board.
Having Mostert back helps the entire offense. It helps, the running game. You respect that run game a lot more, and you want to be up there in the box to try to, stop Raheem Mostert. So it opened things up for Deebo, and it should open up things for Ayuk in the future as well.
And then on the other side of the ball, the Rams, we saw Henderson last week do a good deed against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but then we saw Akers come in and score a touchdown in that one. Now, in this game, they pretty much split the carries, right?
Mm-hmm. 10-9.
10
yeah,
to 9.
The carries are split, but the yards are not.
Akers ripped one off. Akers ripped off a long, 50-yard run or so, and I was surprised, Chef, a little bit that he got caught from behind. I wasn't sure he was going to get caught, and Jason Verrett came back and caught him, and he's a veteran. He's a really fast corner. He's been in the league for a long time, but for him to be able to track down Akers was impressive, but I thought he should have been able to pull away and score that touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, he did get into the end zone. He probably should have had the second one as well. But hey, I'm liking what I'm seeing. 2 weeks in a row. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Cam Akers. Yes, it's later on in the season, but hey, we said it
with rookies.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And then
Chef, you were right about Kupp, man.
Indeed. Yeah, Chef. Shout out to the Chef.
I was wrong.
Right about Kupp.
I was wrong. Yeah, I was way off. Good call, man.
Yeah, we see his targets go up and down, and when he gets a stronger defense in his face, when they're stronger against that slot, you got to be wary about Kupp. He comes in and he has some great games, and then he disappears. He's not like Robert Woods, my man Bobby Trees, who stays consistent.
Bobby Trees. He does.
And he stayed consistent in this one, 7 for 80. So that's his floor. So I'm happy with Bobby Trees. I called him as the wide receiver 1 in this offense at the beginning of the season, and he has not proven wrong in that. The Rams go up against the Cardinals next week, and the Niners face the Bills. Both good games. The Niners and the Niners and Bills. That should be interesting. The way they're starting to climb back into the ring a little bit in the NFC West.
Yeah,
we'll call it an upset, but I wouldn't be.
Oh, Juan, we lost you there for a second. Just want to repeat that last thing. Go ahead.
Oh.
We will call it an upset if the Niners win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do win.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's pretty much how it goes.
Yeah. All right.
No surprise in the next matchup. Chiefs at the Buccaneers.
Right,
the Chiefs win 27-24. Now, we figured that the Chiefs would win, but there were a lot of surprises in the first quarter of this game. And my man Tyreek Hill. Now, I'm not a big player of Tyreek Hill. I don't have him on any of my rosters. I don't like too many boom or bust kind of candidates on my team. I'm a floor fantasy player. Everybody that plays me in my leagues are like, Chef, why are your fantasy points so low, yet you are at the top of the rankings every week? It's because I play the floor on my players, and I get that consistency of the fantasy production. But if you had Tyreek Hill on your team, you probably won your matchup.
Congratulations.
Yesterday. Yeah, congratulations. 13 receptions for 269 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Crazy.
Come on, man. Now, in regular scoring formats, and we play with bonuses, but in regular scoring formats, 57.9 fantasy points. He was two wide receivers on great days in one.
That's 21 yards per catch. Like
That's insane.
that's
just insane. It's ludicrous
Good.
speed.
crazy.
Ludicrous speed.
Good.
Chef,
Yeah, it's running from the cop speed. You guys remember that
Well, yeah,
In
his
the
fantasy
old,
score is straight criminal, bro.
in the old Madden?
so Chef,
Right.
I know we've labeled Tyreek Hill as a boom or bust player, but I think it's time we started giving him like his due. He's only failed to score a touchdown in 2 games this year. He's gotten over 100 yards 3 weeks in a row. And this game right here, I wasn't expecting him to blow up the way he did. Nobody was. This was the 6th best wide receiver performance in the history of the NFL.
Wow.
Wow,
So-
was it really?
Yeah, it was. So only
Whoa,
5 guys
that's
have
cool.
had better performances than him, and 2 of those are Jerry Rice performances, but one of them where he had 5 touchdowns. But Tyreek Hill, I feel like now he's becoming unguardable. And when you saw at the end of the game where they needed to clinch it, he just runs a simple comeback route. And they respect the speed so much that he's able to just stop, plant, turn around, come back towards the sideline. And by the time he got to the marker, ball's there, catch, drop on the ground. Those little 8 to 10 yard trust catches are what you saw last week too, where he didn't have a great game, but he was like 10 for over 100 and still found the end zone. So I feel like he's matchup proof. Like there's no more boom or bust. I'm not scared of any kind of situation where I'm not starting Tyreek Hill like ever again. Like from now on, he's got to be a guy that you put on the field no matter what the situation is.
Yeah, man, I'm with you on that too.
Yeah,
I won't be afraid to draft him in the future either.
Double-digit targets last 3 games, all over at least 14 targets, I believe, and then 9 touchdowns over the past 5 games, which is just bonkers, man.
Yeah, a touchdown in every game. But so, I mean, chances are Tyreek's getting in the end zone, and chances are he's going to get double-digit targets now. That's the way it seems anyway. So look out for that team. Oof.
On the other side of the ball, I mean, we could talk about Mahomes if you'd like to, Mr. Patrick Mahomes, 462 and 3. You know, it's the bread and butter from the Kansas City Chiefs, and I don't think we have to spend too much time. Mahomes, MVP, definitely MVP candidate for the 2020 season. But on the other side of the ball, we had a running back matchup going on. We always talk about it every week, Rojo or Fournette, and this week it was Rojo. Right?
Yeah, I was wrong. I thought it was going to be Fournette. I was wrong.
I always try to stay away from this one, guys. Like, it's not that I don't love Fournette, and I don't love the fact that maybe it should be him because he's the superior talent. Like we've said many times on this show, he was the one who was drafted early in the first round. You can build your team around a guy like Fournette. But Rojo, I mean, 103 scrimmage yards on 10 touches is nothing to sneeze at. And I know he had the one big play, but it feels like he's more efficient in this offense. And Brady somehow finds him. Like, I feel like he misses Fournette, or Fournette drops the passes when Brady targets him. I feel like that connection isn't as there as it is with Rojo. So maybe I'm deciding now I want to lean Rojo. I don't know if you guys are on board with that. Probably not. But like, it feels like it's Rojo going forward. And Arians wants Rojo to be more involved. And he said he definitely feels like he should get more touches. So,
I mean, you probably, and for fantasy purposes, you probably don't have both of them on your roster. You probably don't. They were both late round running backs. Well, Leonard Fournette was probably drafted a little bit before Rojo. And I mean, in this one, Leonard Fournette caught all 3 of his targets that he got. He didn't get any yardage with it. He only got 10 yards. But I think it was just game script that Brady had to throw the ball. They were playing back and forth cat and mouse football, and he really got the wide receivers more involved. We saw Evans have his 10th and 11th touchdown in this one. Godwin is definitely somebody that you can see smashing going forward. I think he, like Juan, I know you wrote it in the show sheet, is he the primary wide receiver? Yes, I do believe so. I think so. I think Godwin, when Antonio Brown came into this offense, I knew Godwin would be the safe bet. If you go back to years with Tom Brady, he always cherished the slot receiver more than any of the other targets out there. Even with Randy Moss on the field, you know, you saw him hit, still through to Welker, utilizing that slot wide receiver. Thanks for the name drop. I appreciate that. But he's still hitting Evans. We saw him get in for 2 touchdowns. He had great yardage in this one, and he'll throw those toss ups. He likes throwing down the field, but I think the safe bet when he needs the yardage, he's going to hit the slot. Antonio Brown could be a hit or miss flex option. He's still listed as a wide receiver 3 in my book, or a high end wide receiver 4 at worst. But yeah, Godwin going forward, I think you can trust him going down the road.
Chef, did you know that Tom Brady missed his last 20 throws over 20 yards going into that game?
Yeah. Yep.
He had, you know what I mean? Like, he hadn't been connecting, he hadn't been throwing it, and he misses a lot of those because he throws it like a fade to the sideline where it's either a, toe drag catch or it's incomplete. At this point in his career, I kind of feel like he's perfected that, and he's willing to throw those to Mike Evans. So he'll give you the booms, and he's a true boom or bust type player where you might get the touchdown, you may not. But Godwin's going to be the reliable guy, I think, going forward. I think he's the wide receiver 2, low end 1 going forward.
And we've always seen with Mike Evans how he can compile fantasy points from week to week. One week he'll be off, the next week he'll be on, and this week he was definitely on point, and he got it done for you this past Sunday.
They're all fire ups though for the rest of the season. They got Minnesota, Atlanta, and Detroit. And then in the fantasy playoffs, week 14, 15, 16. So like Tom Brady, Ronald Jones, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, even, like, fire them all up in those 3 matchups. Like, you're not going to be able to resist the temptation to start them.
And we've made it to the Sunday night matchup, and surprise, surprise, Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. Can we just say that? Like, 4 touchdowns on the day. If you guys play on DraftKings, they were doing this simple odds boost with Devontae Adams scoring the first touchdown and the Green Bay Packers winning. That was one of the only bets I won on this week, unfortunately, because I like to do over-unders, and they've been screwing me royally lately. But let's talk about it. I think David Montgomery had a good day, 11 for 102. That's pretty good.
I really wanted him to score on that big one.
And I'm playing Juan. I'm playing Juan in our home league, and I'm pretty much out of contention. I'm 4-7, spoiler, I believe, in that. And yeah, I'm gonna play spoiler a little bit. I had Allen Robinson going last night, and Allen Robinson took the lead over Juan. Now Juan has, who do you have, Juan? You have Deontay Johnson.
Deontay Johnson, baby, my sweet potato pie.
Your sweet potato pie, and I scrambled. I did not. It's an 18-man roster with 3 IR spots, so it's a pretty deep league, super flex league. So no quarterbacks were left and no running backs were left. I scooped up Anthony McFarland off of the waiver wire, which, hey, I'm glad Allen Robinson showed up yesterday with 8 for 74 and 2 touchdowns, because he put me in contention. I think I'm beating you. I don't know how many I'm beating you by, Juan, but it's enough to feel a little bit comfortable. 11 points.
Yeah, you have an 11-point lead. I have Deontay Johnson. You have McFarland. So Deontay Johnson needs to outscore McFarland by 11 points. So we'll see.
Forfeit.
If they forfeit, you lose, Chef.
No, I win.
No, he wins because he's got Tunyon on his bench.
Oh, because he's got Tunyon as a matchup.
On my bench.
No forfeit. No forfeit.
No, you want
play the game, run the ball.
You need
play the game, run the ball.
Yeah, you need this game to be played.
Tunyon caught all of his targets for 67 yards and a tutty.
Mm-hmm. So you don't want that on my score sheet. He's my substitution. He's my guy in parentheses. If Deontay Johnson doesn't play, Robert Tunyon will get those points. I will get those points for Robert Tunyon. He won't get any because he's got McFarland with no parentheses on his name. So
I don't have any other running backs on my roster, so I couldn't do anything about it.
You should listen to the Tilt is Real.
I did listen to the Tilt is Real. Apparently you did, because you have Tunyon on your roster. He was on the waiver wire hero sheet.
Indeed.
Somehow, some way, and he smashed this week for you. Another surprising Lazard, Alan Lazard, back in it, 4 for 23 and a touchdown. I don't know if he makes the hero sheet this week. He may, though, Juan. That's a good point.
I mean, every time he's in there, like the last time he was in against the Saints before he was injured, he had a big stat line. He found the end zone, and Rodgers, here's a touchdown for you. Here's a touchdown for you, Mercedes Lewis. Like every week he finds random people to throw touchdowns to, and I think he could be the beneficiary of all those double teams that they have been putting on Devontae Adams, and they're going to need to put more because he's almost unguardable, dude.
And then next week, the Bears play the Lions. Do they get Nick Foles back? And if they do, is he the starting quarterback? Both of you, I want to hear your reactions. That wasn't on the show sheet, by the way.
No. Well, I mean, like, do you? I mean, I guess at this point they're just kind of playing back and forth with the Bears. I don't think there's any way to discern whether or not it would be. I would rather have Foles if I were the Bears.
You see, like, I don't know, maybe I'm fantasy biased, Mr. Swanson, but I'd rather have Trubisky. Like, he at least has a little magic in him. Like, he makes things work. Yeah, he's going to turn the ball over a couple times like he did yesterday. But I feel like I mean, he had 2 interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, the turnovers. I feel like Foles has the magic, though. I see what you're saying with and I feel that on the other side. And I'm, maybe I'm biased because I saw what Foles did when.
Yeah, you got you that nice hat you're wearing and that jersey made you proud. You guys a ring. Absolutely. I get it. But he just hasn't looked right in that offense.
Yes, I agree. He hasn't looked right in that offense, but he did play a game or two without David Montgomery. And he is the money quarterback in that situation. His contract states it. So I think that's the way they roll moving forward. But it is going to be a coin flip whether or not it happens. And they go up against the Lions, who they just fired Matt Patricia yesterday, something like that. So who knows?
Chef, like, he might be the big money quarterback. I know they paid him, some money to come and play there, but you took the other dude over Mahomes and Watson, bro. Like, there's a case to be made to, like, having to still put something on your name, like, where, like, hold on, we didn't make a mistake. This dude's not a bust. Look, he threw for 242. He had 3 touchdowns. He kept us in the game. He brought us back a little bit. Like,
no, I think they already admit that he was not the right choice by letting Nick Foles take over in week 3, week 4 this year. I think they're just trying to float, and Nagy's trying to save his job with a win here or there, which, at the beginning of the season it looked like he was going to do, but now
they've been struggling.
Doesn't look so good. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it looks tough.
Carlos Sierra wants to know, we trust Galladay if he plays week 13
without Matt Patricia? Sure.
The scary part, I mean, Bevel's still there, so they're still going to have the same offensive coordinator. That's not going to change, and he might actually get I'm not sure who's going to get the coaching duties there, the interim coach duties or the title. But Galladay, I haven't been able to trust him. I'm a big believer in Galladay. I had him pegged as a top 5 wide receiver for this season. But again, like this week, you saw Devontae Adams be Devontae Adams, but Galladay's not Devontae Adams. I'm not saying he can't have success, but against Fuller, I would temper my expectations. And if you made it this far without Galladay, I wouldn't just hurry to rush him back into my lineup if my other options have been performing for me, or if you find another great matchup somewhere. So Carlos, come see us on Sunday, for the Tilt is Real Sunday morning tilt. We'll have a better clarity on whether or not he's fully healthy, whether or not he's going to get the Kyle Fuller matchup. Answer questions like that. And if we have better tilts, we'll get those to you as well.
I agree with that. Chicago's defense, 3rd fewest points allowed to fantasy wide receivers. So you may want to be hesitant on bringing Galladay back into your lineups. We have to see if he gets a full week of practice and see how he's going to handle it, and see how Matthew Stafford is going to be turning out too. Another one that can't really be trusted on a weekly basis.
Appreciate the question though, Carlos, for real.
Absolutely.
And see you on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, Absolutely. The Packers next week, they play the Eagles. And the Eagles tonight, they play the Seahawks. Dun 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 dun.
Bum bum bum. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, we're gonna stop with that. That was terrible. Scratch that. Edit. So the Seahawks play the Eagles. It should be a one-sided matchup, right, Mr. Swanson? That's what you were saying at the end of yesterday's show. No Greg Olsen in this one. He's out for the season. Lane Johnson out for the season. The O-line is depleted.
Yes.
So Chris Carson coming back in this one, he's got to be at least an RB2 with upside, right, guys?
Yes.
Yeah. Historically, the Eagles defense has been really good against the run, especially at home. However, I'm not sure that they're going to be able to, hold up for the entire game. And I don't know how much Carson's going to run. I don't know if he's going to be on the Mostert pitch count or the Eckler pitch count. That's what's going to be interesting to see which one of those roles he gets. But if he falls anywhere in between that, he's a low-end RB2, like you're saying, Chef, at least.
I think
so
we're
RB2 floor. I like that.
Yeah, I think that it's. I say that because I think that the run is might just until they're up and you just go back to the run to control the clock. I think initially the Eagles, I think we're going to come out looking good, and then I think it's going to fall apart. because that's what's been happening. So I think maybe you stop Carson early on, and then Carson gets an uptick a little bit, and then it just kind of stays like clock managing after that. The Eagles haven't beat Seattle at home since 1989.
That's a wow.
1989.
Jim Zorn was the quarterback. Was Jim Zorn the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks or Dave Craig? It was Dave Craig. I think it was Dave Craig's season.
1989,
Sorry.
dude. I was 6 years old. I was
2. I was 2, my dude.
Listen,
2 years old.
You know what?
Stop aging yourself.
I'm going to age myself real quick, but you know why the Eagles won that game and why they won a lot of games in 1989? Reggie White, Jerome Brown, Clyde Simmons, that Byron Evans, Seth Joyner, Eric Allen, Wes Hopkins, Andre Waters. Like that was that squad, dude. That gangrene defense, that Buddy Ryan 46 in your face, nobody scoring on us defense. Like it was amazing to watch. Sorry, I get excited
Speaking
about
of scoring on the Eagles this week, what do we think about DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett? Now,
so
DK Metcalf gets Darius Slay.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett gets
Nickel
Roby Coleman.
Yeah, Roby Coleman. Yeah.
And it doesn't look too good, but then David Moore should be wide open in this one. I think he's a sleeper that most people haven't talked about this week, and I think you could see him sneaking in a touchdown.
Okay. I guess you could see that.
I like more for a touchdown, and I also like DK to go back to being matchup proof.
He will be. He's already proof. He towers over Slay.
Right.
He's gonna. I'm sorry, but like Slay's not gonna be able to cover him. It's DK Metcalf, and Roby Coleman's still too slow to cover Lockett in the slot.
For sure.
And we're gonna need to. All right. So here's how we rank as a defense against the wideouts for Seattle. We're 9th against teams number ones. We're 28th against the second, 20th against the slot, 27th against tight ends, and 30th against running backs. Ouch.
So it's really Slay taking away their number one, and then the rest of the guys gouging your defense's eyes out. So maybe he does take away
but it's Slay taking away the number one, anybody who's not named DK Metcalf.
All right.
And I mean, I'm just saying, it doesn't look good. We need to pressure Russ tonight. We need to pressure Russ. We need to, and then even when he goes out to the perimeter, that's when we need to stop him as well, because he can still make things happen. And on the other side of the ball, I know there's talk about Jalen Hurts tonight. And if anybody has any questions about, I haven't looked up okay. So Hurts was taking some first team reps. I don't think anybody really knows what that means for tonight, whether he's going to be on the field without Wentz, whether he's going to have an increased amount of snaps, whether he's just going to start really producing and then Wentz is going to take a back seat. There's a lot of implications in tonight's game. Wentz has only completed 58.4% of his passes this season. That's 6.2 yards per attempt. Both of those are his career worst. He has a league high 40 sacks. He gets dropped 9.6% of the time when he goes back to pass. I mean, these are mind-boggling numbers. Leads the league with 14 interceptions. His 3 points, he has a 3.7 interception rate that exceeds both of his last 2 seasons combined. We should have opportunity. On paper, we should have opportunities against Seattle. We really should. And I believe those opportunities will be there. It's going to be all about whether or not Wentz can take that opportunity and do something with it without scrambling and forgetting to throw the ball away and just getting dropped. And if we see Jalen Hurts, then a lot of this is kind of like remain to be seen because you don't really know.
All right. So that was great, Mr. Swanson.
Fantastic.
That was a great take.
I wanted him to keep going.
That was a great take. And that was just amazing with the numbers.
Important game.
Yeah, it is an important game. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to get to. From a fantasy standpoint, you're not trusting many Eagles outside of maybe Miles Sanders in this one.
Miles Sanders, I would trust.
On the Seattle side of the ball, you're playing your guys in hopes that the Eagles defense, just bleeds some points to them. But I think what we're all really watching in this football game is it the last of Carson Wentz as a Philadelphia Eagle? He needs to perform today or he will lose his job. And they're testing that right now. I believe the upper management came out and said, we want to see Hurts. We spent up for him in the draft. Okay. If Wentz can't get it done, it's next man up on the field. That's why you see him getting first team reps in practice. They already said it. The media got a hold of it that Hurts will have some playing time without Wentz on the field. And I think when Wentz is on the field, he needs to show up. And it's a perfect matchup for him to show up against the Seattle Seahawks. He needs to take control of this offense. And if he doesn't, the writing is on the wall for Carson Wentz. And I can see them trying to trade him next year.
Listen, man, I'm going to be the optimist here. I don't want to see any of that stuff that the chef just talked about. Speaking just specifically to the numbers, there's no reason Carson Wentz doesn't throw for 300, 2 or 3 passing touchdowns. We finally see Jalen Reagor. We see that Travis Fulgham come back and have a good game after a few bad weeks. That's how bad the Seattle secondary is. Like, if you're going to get right, this is the secondary to get right against. If they can scheme some way to block for him, or move him out of the pocket, just slide the protection like you would with a shorter quarterback, and don't make him have to force any throws, I think Carson Wentz can have a really good game, and this can be a sneaky shootout game on both sides of the ball. Because I don't think the Seahawks defense, like, I don't understand where anybody's like, I know that Mr. Swanson, they could have a good game because Wentz turns the ball over, 18 turnovers. He's third in the league by himself, not even as a team. I get it. But I feel like he should have an opportunity this week to right the ship, get some big plays down the field. He should be able to hit a big play or two down the field. I feel like this could be a Jalen Reagor, he's here now game.
Should is the key word. I agree. Should. And it's just a matter of whether or not it can be executed.
Correct.
And that's,
I mean, their defense has given up over 300 yards in every single game this season. 314 to the Arizona Cardinals last week. And that was the lowest of the year. So yeah, I think they should be able to make it happen, Juan. But like you said, I made a switch. I put in, unfortunately, Daniel Jones got hurt, but I put in Daniel Jones over Carson Wentz this week because I was just too scared of the outcome of this matchup. I really have no faith in Carson Wentz. Unfortunately, in this offense, it's a scary thing. All my faith
is just, it just comes from the heart. It just comes from I really want to see. I really want to see it. I really want to see what we saw 2 years ago. I really, really do. And just watching every game so far this year, you got to start to temper your expectations and really start to kind of look forward to see what things are really going to be. And I know it's a fantasy show, so
I like the optimism, though, Juan. I really do like the optimism
because you can have it's not blind faith; it's faith in the numbers, and the numbers speak for themselves. The chef just told you everyone gets 300 yards against the Seattle Seahawks defense, so why not Carson Wentz?
Maybe 250 the way Wentz has been playing.
Well, he's only
Cam Newton hit him for 397, and he's Cam freaking Newton who had 87 yards going into the fourth quarter yesterday. Against the Cardinals, who Russ lit up a few weeks ago, last time, and then a few weeks back prior. So like, there's no reason that the numbers have failed us. Yesterday, we had a lot of numbers go wrong for us with Teddy Bridgewater, with Derek Carr. We struggled with, a lot of guys, Josh Jacobs, PH, Dalvin Cook. Like, there were a lot of guys who the numbers dictated that the games would go a certain way. And a lot of places they were right. James Robinson was right. Nick Chubb was right. Like, there were a lot of places where they dictated. Today, the numbers dictate 300 yards passing for Carson Wentz, 2 or more touchdowns, breakout game for either Reagor or bounce back game for Fulgham. Those are to be expected. Like, that's what should happen. Or a smash game out of Miles Sanders, especially receiving the ball. One of or 2 or 3 of those things should happen today. Speaking to the numbers specifically.
Any given Sunday, or in this case, Monday. Quick jump in from Minnie Jordan. What's up, Minnie Jordan 718? How you doing, man?
Jordan, welcome back, Minnie Jordan.
What's up, guys?
Appreciate you for jumping in there all fast. And let's get up to this last matchup. And this last matchup is crazy, okay? It's the Ravens and the Steelers. We've been talking about this up and down all weekend long, and it's now been pushed to Wednesday. We know that. We don't have a time yet for it, right, guys?
I don't think
I haven't heard anything yet.
No, there's no time yet.
8 p.m. I think was the last time I saw that on the.
And that was for the Tuesday matchup. So who knows what time they're going to play on Wednesday? You should be prepared not to play your guys in this matchup. Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram, James Conner, Mark Andrews recently added to the list, and he's one that I want to talk about real fast because he has type 1 diabetes. And the 2020, I will never say the C word again, the 2020 with people with diabetes really could hit him hard. So if for dynasty purposes, that's someone you're watching, he may take longer amounts of time to come back as well. Yes, Mr. Swanson.
I got the game time. This is going to blow your mind.
1 o'clock in the afternoon.
This is really going to blow your mind. I promise you, you wouldn't be able to guess this with the 10-foot pole. 3:40 p.m. will be your kickoff time on Wednesday.
Wow.
That's fantastic. So we can watch that game and then do the Wednesday night podcast of The Tilt is Real. And you can tune in with us and get our instant reaction to that game, as well as
we're going to have to get it a little early and get a little segment in there for the recap.
So just like the last time that a Wednesday game was postponed, what was it? Obama was doing
the Democratic Convention. Yeah, September 5th, 2012.
Okay, so that just like that wasn't like an outlier, like outside of sports. NBC is broadcasting the game at 3:40 because they are committed to broadcasting the 88th Rockefeller Center Christmas tree lighting on Wednesday night. They would normally be in that slot.
No, they did it like
tree lighting has trumped football in America.
So the West Coast is going to watch a 12:40 lunch break game because they need to light a tree.
Yeah,
in New York.
In New York at a certain time. At 3 in the afternoon their time, they got to light a tree. Like, okay.
Yeah. When the
Did you see that on the I don't know if anybody looked at it. You saw how they had a baby owl in the Rockefeller Center tree?
Yeah, when they got the tree, there was a baby owl in there.
That's what a hoot.
Dad joke, and I'm the old one. You know what? Though? Get used to
dad joke.
You know what?
That's your first real dad joke on the air. I love it.
You got to get used to it. I love it. Oh man, mark that one down.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, congrats to the chef and Allie. Chef and Allie, a baby boy on the way. Little baby chef.
Little baby chef.
Little baby chef. Summer 2021.
Grow up to beat all of you in fantasy football. I love it.
Everyone but me.
We'll see. We'll see.
Listen, he's got a lot of uncles to contend with, man.
He's got a lot of uncles.
He's gonna have a lot of uncles to contend with.
I'm gonna make sure he beats you. I know that.
Yeah. Well, my luck. Yeah, he will. We told you, Juan, you love Deontay Johnson. Getting back to this fantasy football game, you like Deontay Johnson. I also like the other perimeter receiver, Chase Claypool. I think both of them could have a good game. It's just a question mark on who you can trust in this game. We still don't know if it's going to happen, and it's scary. We're 2 days away now. They keep pushing it back, and for all intents and purposes, you probably have pivoted already. If you haven't, man, I don't know who to trust in this one. I really don't. I don't trust Gus Edwards. I don't trust Justice Hill. You definitely don't trust RG3.
J.K. Dobbins will be back for this game. J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram will be back for this game. I thought I mentioned that earlier.
That's right. Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. So they'll be back. So I guess treat that as you. It's weird to say this, but treat that as you normally would.
It feels like if whoever you have on your roster start them, because last time they had 250 yards rushing against the Steelers in that game, even though they lost it, they had 250 yards rushing as a team. So one of them or whoever gets the lead, especially if you haven't been practicing, you haven't been in the building, you still expect to see a heavy dose of Gus Edwards, but we don't know how the game script's going to go. I like it because either way, it's going to be RG3. It's not going to be Lamar Jackson. So you're going to run the ball. I feel like each one of those guys gets 10, 12 or so carries, and one of them, the hot hand, becomes fantasy relevant in that game.
Hard to discern.
Really hard to discern, right yeah. And as far as the wide receivers, Jeff, we didn't get to see a full. That was one of the games that Deontay Johnson didn't get a full game in, and so we don't. That's the one of the games that I left out of the equation of if he plays the full game, double-digit targets, all that. I'm not scared of the Ravens corners. They've been had by other people, namely Corey Davis and AJ Brown, a couple guys that have had success against them. So I'm not really worried about that. I feel like Deontay Johnson's a smash play no matter what, no matter which one of them he's going against. He's going to get double-digit targets. And if those running backs are there, that might move a little bit the offense for the Ravens, and they'll have to throw the ball, the Steelers. So all three wide receivers, I think I'm firing them up.
Yeah, no, I'm a little hesitant on Juju Smith-Schuster. But other than that, I agree with you. Like I said, the perimeter wide receivers and Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool is definitely a smash. And I think we did it, fellas. I think that about wraps it up.
Recap preview show
else to add in.
No, we're good. Ready to watch some football.
I'm ready to watch some football.
One last thing I just wanted to say: with Willie Snead being out, testing positive for 2020, does Marquise Brown mean anything to you?
Who's that?
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you guys.
Not with RG3 at the helm. I really don't. I think the Pittsburgh defense. I think the Pittsburgh defense. If you really want to push it to game script, yes, the perimeter receivers could have a touchdown or two between the two of them. I think the Steelers defense just, I hate to use the word, mollywops them off of the field and just total takeover on the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive side of the ball. You're going to see the Steelers run the ball a lot in this one, I think.
Big Benny Snell game, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So
That'll do it.
that'll do it. You guys want to say your goodbyes real fast, and we'll wrap this bad boy up.
I'll make mine fast. Fly, Eagles, fly. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday. I love you both. And all the guys that I'm speaking to, you guys, but I love all y'all too. They tune in all the time. Fly, Eagles, fly. Good night.
Mr. Swanson, like he said, of course I love you. I love all y'all. So I love the whole team. I love all our tilters. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for hitting like. Thank you for checking out the website, thetiltisreal.com, and reading at our articles. We appreciate the love. Thank you for coming back in and week out. And fly, Eagles, fly. I really am in favor of them turning the trend, bucking the trend. And I want to see that division get a little bit better. I'm tired of the NFC least talk. We live too close to Philly to have all that negativity surrounding us. Carson Wentz,
I love it as a Giants fan.
Carson Wentz, 300, 3 touchdowns. I know you don't want to hear it. You guys still it'll carry on later on in the season. This is going to go all the way down to the wire with this whole tie 5-7, whoever the hell's the division winner. That's going to be later on. Great show tonight, guys. I appreciate both of y'all. As always, I'm at FF1 of a kind, TIR_pod on Twitter is where you find us there. And make sure you tune in. We'll see you on Wednesday night when we do our podcast and we record it live at Join Our Circle _, the whole family over there. You can check them out. Great work and content always coming out from them. And of course, as always, our chef.
Yeah, Join Our Circle _. Check out the website. Breaking soon. Fantasy Intervention. It is going to be happening shortly. It's in the works. It's almost done. We're doing big things over there. Like Juan said, with the Fantasy 6-pack. Juan has another show. I'm doing waiver wire shows with them now as well. So we keep spreading the content for fantasy football.
Go ahead and tell them about your show tomorrow.
It's not solidified as it's going down, but I will put a word out there on the Twitter if it is, but it should be going down. Waiver Wire Heroes show with Chase Vernon and Nate P on Twitter. You guys check that out if you want. Follow them follow their YouTube channel at Fantasy Intervention.
Indeed.
On YouTube if you haven't already.
Sure.
And then for all of our great content as well, hit that subscribe button like we keep saying during the show on YouTube. We're getting up there, guys. We're almost at 50 subs. So we really appreciate your likes, your comments, and obviously the love you guys share in the chat every week. For more great analysis, you can find us at TIR_pod like Juan mentioned. And follow me at FF_chef on Twitter. And that will be the show. Peace out, guys, and have a great week. Go Seahawks.
Thank you for listening to the Tilt is Real Fantasy Podcast. Check out our website at thetiltisreal.com for weekly articles, breakdowns, and more. Follow us on Twitter at TIR_pod. We'll see you Tilters next week.